Welcome, one and all, to the Ferret and Raccoon podcast, episode 232. I am your one and only host for this podcast, the Angry Raccoon, bringing you the first podcast of December 2023. And yes, the first thing I do need to mention is the fact that I do unfortunately have a sore throat. It is basically a cold, because unfortunately, no matter where I went and no matter what I did, it was cold, and I got a cold/flu or whatever it is. It's really frustrating, especially given the fact that I'm trying to get the end of the year podcast written and other things caught up. So you kind of don't really want to be doing extra work when you don't feel that great. So yeah, the last couple of days have not been the best. So I do apologize if my voice sounds bad or inconsistent over the next couple of minutes. But other than that, I haven't really been doing much other than just writing, watching, reading, doing other things, making sure I am caught up for said podcast, which I'll mention again at the end of this podcast, I should say. But yes, we've got another small episode for you because there really just isn't much to talk about as we draw closer to the end of the year. But what typically does tend to happen is a lot of companies and other people do try and get you kind of hype for 2024 or the next year. So we do have a lot of trailers of them kind of teasing and going, "Yeah, get excited for 2024. It's going to be crazy." I'm kind of optimistic to some extent because, especially when it comes to films, 2023 has been pretty abysmal. Yeah, there hasn't really been much to talk about or really watch. So we shall see how 2024 compares. But the first trailer we have is a trailer or more accurately, a film I completely forgot about. I honestly thought it got cancelled because it'd been so long since the last film, and I always knew they were going to do it, but here we are finally. And that is going to be for Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Now, this is essentially going to be a prequel to, I can't remember when Fury Road came out. It was feels like it was a decade ago. But we have a sequel to Mad Max Fury Road, being Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, which is essentially going to be a prequel story telling the origin story of Furiosa, who featured in Fury Road. And I mean, looking at this trailer and kind of given everything that's surrounding it, hype from Fury Road and other things, if George Miller can't save the film industry at this point, then nobody can. He is one of the best, most classic, directors out there right now. He just makes films. And when you look at his discography, or filmography, I should say, he's done a lot of very interesting and just solid, good films. Like, he is, film director. He's what you want to make a film, not for, but he's the kind of guy who, if he's doing a film for you, you should be in good hands for the most part. Once again, a perfect trailer that doesn't spoil the whole film. It's just a collection of random scenes in a very loose narrative as we see a young Furiosa essentially being taken away from her land or her people, which seems to be a very green, almost, non-apocalyptic area. And she's kind of, brought into this horrible, mechanical, post-apocalyptic world. And it is very interesting that we're going to, once again kind of see what the world was like before Mad Max happened. It's been hinted in the previous films, but this may be one of our better looks at what it was, or certain areas that are meant to be not necessarily sacred, but still intact from, the post-apocalypse for the most part. It is an origin story about Furiosa, who is going to be played by Anya Taylor-Joy, and although there is a recognizable visual element to this film where we do see people like Immortal Joe and his cult leaders and other kind of very, similar, scenes from the previous films, the film isn't a direct prequel to Fury Road. Rather, it's a story that seems to happen or take place before the events of Fury Road, and may even take place during or before some of the other Mad Max films. We don't know how far back this takes place, in a sense. And it's always a bad decision if you're going to... first of all, don't ever do prequels, not unless you've really, really planned it out. But setup films usually fail because they only serve to fill in gaps or answer questions that didn't really need to be answered. And I think George Miller knows this, and that's why he's making a film and not just a cash grab at the end of the day, because he could have just made Fury Road 2, and he's decided to do something a bit more different, focusing on a very interesting character, which I'm looking forward to. This film looks beautiful. I think everyone can agree on that. Every shot is so simple, yet technically picturesque. they're clearly using the best cameras possible. And if they're not, they're putting a lot of films and studios to shame because, this looks like, it looks like it was shot for IMAX. I was about to say on IMAX, but I'm not sure if that's the case. I'll be surprised if this shot on film. I kind of don't think it is. And I know George Miller, he doesn't really do a lot of, CGI, digital touch-ups. He kind of shoots everything as it is. Even the one shot that looks the most CG looking in Fury Road was actually accomplished with practical effects. So he is very old school, and I think it definitely shows because this looks like a film. Everything in his films is genuine for the most part, especially when it comes to the Mad Max films. So there's that going for him. I mean, I do. How do I put it? I'm really looking forward to, it sounds kind of bad, but knowing me, it kind of makes sense. The very like cartoony chase scenes or / race scenes. In Fury Road, they were like masterfully paced and energetic. Hopefully they're just as good as in this film. They don't really tease them too much. You kind of just see cars revving up and you kind of see that we're going to get some kind of car chase combat or whatever you want to call it. So I think they were smart not to show any of that. Chris Hemsworth was a great choice, even if he does basically just look like Thor in this. I do wonder how intentional that was. His accent is on point though. Anya Taylor-Joy is, perfect casting once again. She looks a lot like Kristen, I forget the actress's name, it's Kristen something, right? I should have really, Charlize? I can't remember her name. The actress who played Furiosa in the first film, she looked exactly like her. And if they're going for that whole like innocent, pure of heart character, kind of being brought from like a place of peace and, the complete opposite of a post-apocalypse, into a rough environment, who kind of like needs to toughen up in order to survive and becomes a badass. She suits that role wonderfully, as Tanya kind of has that. Anya, excuse me. As Anya Taylor-Joy kind of has that like natural doe-eyed look in her appearance and in some of her appearances and performances. So that's I think that was very smart for them to do that if they're going down that angle for the most part. Media tends to get go a bit overboard when it comes to portraying women. They make them too perfect and better than everyone, which is very boring because not everyone is perfect and no man nor woman is better than no man or woman. That's just how it goes. We're all equal and all different in our own ways. And I think that's something people need to realize. And like, we both need each other, regardless of gender. And Hollywood doesn't seem to think that's a applicable message to tell anyone, unfortunately. So it is annoying and it is unrealistic when media does go down this route of being unfair with the sexes, let's just say. So hopefully the strong, independent female trope isn't present in this film, and Furiosa is a good character and not just a checklist of, we need a female character to be this, and do that, and that, which so many characters put in that strong, independent female role unfortunately tend to be, which is a shame. And I'm glad that people are wising up and calling it out more often when it appears in films. Costume, set design looks amazing, and this film looks as consistent as the previous films, and really looking forward to it. One of my more anticipated films of the year for the most part. Next trailer we have, I have to stop every now and then because I am trying not to just have a massive coughing fit, so I'm sorry for the awkward pauses if you do hear them. The next trailer is going to be for Fallout, based on the Bethesda video game series, which has had a couple of sequels, the last two not being the best. So I guess they're trying to cash in on the popularity that Fallout has garnered over the last couple of years, mainly with, once again, the better games, New Vegas. And looking at this trailer, I was shocked because it looks cheap as fuck. Like, Bethesda got ripped off. Like, where did that money go? Like, this is being made by Amazon, who has all the money in the world, so I have no idea what they've done with said money. Did it just go into acquiring the license for the game? Because this looks like a shoestring budget at the end of the day. Like, I've honestly seen better fan films and projects that look more authentic and look more in keeping with the series' tones and themes. For those of you who never played Fallout, it's an immersive sim. Essentially, you are role-playing as a character in an open world, and turning it into a TV series defeats the whole point of the game, because now you can't shape your own story or future. You have to watch someone else's story, and the character will probably be someone you don't like, which is a shame. The CGI looks pretty bad, and I kind of know they're not going to, but I doubt it'll improve before release. Just everything looks like a cartoon, which is strange because, yeah, I don't know how they've achieved that. It looks intentionally bad. Like I've seen trailers that are meant to be bad films with intentionally bad animation and CGI that suits it, but here, I don't know what the hell they're going for here. This is just so confusing. The series, I think, will probably just be a vehicle for the writer or the directors to kind of like push a story that has nothing to do with Fallout, because, you know, they're such good writers, which is why they can never get any work in Hollywood, so they have to shoehorn in their own story and ideologies and messages, which happens so often nowadays in media based on properties where it has nothing to do with the source material, and it's just terrible. It's just a show for Twitter at the end of the day to get good boy points from, I know the term isn't really used that too often, but I use it anyway, social justice warriors, to look good in the eyes of certain people, give themselves, not really plot armor, but make themselves immune to criticism if they do certain things and say certain things for the most part, which is a massive shame. The world looks like a generic wasteland, and that's especially when you compare it to Mad Max, both a Mad Max Saga and Fury Road. There is no identity. I mean, once again, comparing the two, the desert and the wasteland in Mad Max is orange and blue, whereas here it's just a beige generic sand that you have seen on pictures in Google Maps and such. Like, there is no character nor soul to the world. Like, where are the barely standing landmarks that both Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas had? And speaking of Fallout New Vegas, why are they basing this on Fallout 4? New Vegas had a much stronger theme and sense of identity, so I don't know why they've gone for the arguably more generic look and style of Fallout 3 and 4. Like, they've honestly just shot themselves in the foot by making, I think the key word is the most generic thing ever. It's just baffling. I mean, maybe they're playing it safe, but realistically, if you're dumping so much money into this project, you shouldn't be playing it safe. You need to go all out if you want to turn a profit or, achieve anything at the end of the day. Now is not the time to be, just dipping your toes into this. I mean, is this meant to be like the remnants of America? Because it doesn't look like it. It looks like this was shot somewhere in the Middle East or a desert. It's incredibly unbelievable that this is meant to be America or wherever the hell this is going to be already. And this is the one thing that killed the trailer for me. I can tell the series is going to spend way too long in like a vault with like kooky characters trying to be like funny or relatable. We need to stop doing that kind of stuff. It works in comedies and that's great. But here, something that's a little bit more serious, I would imagine, fighting for your survival, kind of a serious thing. And you can just kind of tell that the series is probably going to be very, very preachy, like preachy as hell, like with like base level commentary on our world or the world today, or there's going to be like really cringe references to like the past, mentioning famous people and, oh, back in this day, people used to do this, and what's a TikTok, stupid crap like that, which, looking forward to that. I will give this series one thing though. At least they got a dog or real dogs to play dog meat. That's the only positive that comes from this trailer. So yeah, and they'll probably mess that up somehow. But we have the last trailer to talk about. I've saved arguably the best one for last, the biggest trailer, I guess, technically of 2023. Last time I checked, this trailer had over 100 million views, and it gained that within just a few days. So needless to say that people are hyped is an understatement. I am, of course, talking about, finally, the long-awaited, anticipated trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6. The first of, I'm sure, many trailers to release before the game's release in 2025. So yeah. Thoughts on this trailer? Yeah, that's GTA 5, alright. Well, not GTA 5, but that's Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, it's the same old, same old. It looks like an expansion on GTA 5. I mean, that was my first takeaway. It doesn't look all that different. There's no graphical jump. It seems like it's riding the same waves as GTA 5. The only thing that kind of really impressed me was just some of the animation in this not gameplay trailer and some of the lighting uses. I thought that was pretty good. But yeah, I do like the modern take on Bonnie and Clyde, which is what they're going for with the two main characters. I think that in a story narrative could be interesting. Like, what would that look in the present day of it being harder to be a criminal, or what's the word, in the world of social media and such like that. So with that rising, what is it? The expensive living and stuff like that. That is interesting to see, because nowadays, though it sounds wrong, it is completely understandable and justifiable why anyone would want to turn to a life of crime, because it's easy. People are desperate for money. That, I think, can be a very strong component in this game, mainly in the story mode, maybe in some of the more subtle themes within the world, or how GTA 5 is presenting this bizarro take on our current reality. That, I think, is pretty strong. But yeah, it is interesting. And I mean, some of the scenes, once again, like I mentioned, that are clearly filmed like from someone's phone, like on Instagram Live and such, I think those are fun. I don't know how they're going to play into the game itself. I don't know if it's going to be part of the story. I don't know if they were just made for the trailer in order to kind of give you a sense of how relatable this world is to our current state. I think they were kind of fun. I think, just seeing like the guy running around in his underwear getting caught by the police, or the Karen old lady woman, like, threatening presumably the young hip teenager. I think that stuff is pretty fun. I think that's pretty solid. That, once again, really does set the tone for this game. I really enjoyed my time with GTA 5. The characters were memorable, the story was good, and the world did feel lived in. It was great. I did enjoy my time just driving around and listening to music and just doing things. But Rockstar / Take-Two Interactive, like, really milked the shit out of that game. Like, oh my gosh, like, besides the graphics, like, 6 looks like a consumer, like, friendly version of 5 with, like, a weak identity, and Rockstar and Take-Two are going to milk the fans for everything they're worth, and that's honestly not what I'm looking forward to when it comes to this game. It's just, I kind of see the more cynical aspect of what they're going to do with this game. It doesn't feel like they really wanted to make this game. Well, at least the higher ups. I will give absolute, wonderful credit to all the people who have clearly poured their heart, soul, and effort into making this game, because I'm sure they're going to craft a visually beautiful and well-playing game. Those people, the people who actually make the game, fantastic. Keep doing what you're doing. You are the real heroes. Despite maybe the game designers and structures and people kind of needing to update the way they go about making games, but that's besides the point. Yeah, that's what I do worry about this game, and yeah, it's just another safe sequel, I think, in a long line of more safe sequels we're going to get, unless change really starts to happen, and that change starts with people saying no to safe sequels and just buy different games and such. Yeah, the series is tired and it kind of needs more originality. It just needs to do more, I think, because if it's just GTA 6 again, I think people are going to start getting tired of it, and it probably won't last as long as GTA 5 did, no matter how much money or how much content or how forceful Rockstar or Take-Two Interactive are going to be about it. I mean, they really need to go down the route of the Resident Evil franchise that has a ton of sequels and games, but Capcom always tries something new in each game. So I don't know why they can't do it. But then again, I realize I know the answer to that question, and that's because they don't have to. Because people get lazy when they're guaranteed success. And that's honestly what I see and think about when I think about GTA 6, unfortunately. So yeah. I mean, I'm optimistic. It'll be interesting to see other people play GTA 6. But me, myself, I don't care. I'm not really interested in playing the game at all, for the most part. And yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap up this podcast, the last podcast, well, normal podcast of 2023, because the next podcast is going to be the best and worst of 2023. That podcast is going up on the 25th of December, so Christmas Day. So it'll be a nice Christmas treat for everyone to listen to if you decide to listen to it on the day. I want to thank everyone for listening to this podcast and making it all the way through. I really appreciate it. Any support on this channel and episode is much obliged. And yeah, I guess I will leave you with the video of the episode, the last one for the year, and that is going to be by Tierra with Chanel Pitt. Tierra, one of my favorite female rappers right now. She does what she wants, and she always makes just kind of short, weird rap songs. She is very much her own person, very unique in identity. Tierra could really teach Rockstar and 2K a thing or two about being original. But yeah, really love this song. Very small, short, cute. Love it. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. And yeah, that's pretty much going to be the podcast. If for whatever reason you don't want to listen to the end of the year podcast, I will see you in 2024. But yeah, I guess I will end this podcast like I always do by saying I was the Angry Raccoon, and I will see you on the next podcast.